Good evening, everybody. Welcome. We're going to officially get started. Welcome to the third workshop in our community art plant series. Tonight, we're focusing on botanical illustration. My name is Tasha Murray, and I work with the Invasive Species Council of Metro Vancouver. And helping me host the workshop is my colleague Isabel, who's also presenting the workshop, and our colleague Larissa, who's going to help facilitate the Zoom meeting. I would like to acknowledge and thank the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish, on whose traditional territory I work and live, and am joining you tonight in our office in Adanac Park in the city of Vancouver. Of course, many of you are from the Metro Vancouver area, but I know there were some registered from further afar, and we welcome you to the meeting as well. We have about 39 people registered for tonight, although I know not everybody can join us live, but they're looking forward to viewing the workshop recording afterwards. So I'm sure by now many of you are accustomed to using Zoom as a meeting space, but I just wanted to highlight a few important features. If you hover down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a menu very similar to this with some options. Please keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. Video is up to you, although if you do have intermittent internet, or if you find that the Zoom meeting is freezing for you once in a while, it may help to turn your video off. You can use the chat box to make comments or ask questions as we go along. And another handy feature is there are different options for viewing your screen depending on whether you want to see a big screen of the person presenting. So usually it's the top upper right corner that you can use to adjust those settings. So if you are new to events that the Invasive Species Council of Metro Vancouver puts on, welcome. And for those of us who have joined us before, welcome back. We are a not-for-profit society, and we help people with their invasive plant or just their general plant problems. So we answer questions and connect people to resources and host events like this, and also work a lot with staff and volunteers who do on-the-ground work with plants. And there's a few ways that you can keep in touch with us. We're on social media. You can visit our website, and we also have a regional listserv if you want to find out about specifically invasive plant events, jobs, local research, that kind of thing. So just a reminder, this workshop will be recorded and available for online viewing afterwards. If you're not comfortable with your photo or your video or your name showing up on the recording, please adjust your settings accordingly. Anyone who's registered for tonight will receive a follow-up message from me about how to access the link. It'll be available on our YouTube channel. You can see a screenshot of that right there, and I'll provide the link, of course. And just a reminder, this is the third in a series of 3 workshops. If you missed the first 2 on plant identification and collection, and then the one in May on photographing plants, I will put the link into the chat where you can find those recordings. They're really great if you missed them, and so I really encourage you to go and take a look at those. And then finally, the second phase of this workshop series, trying to help people learn about local plants and how to document them, is we're actually going to create a local guidebook of common plants that are found in the Metro Vancouver region. And so we hope that all of you will contribute your photographs or your artwork for inclusion in the guidebook. You can see there's a series of other kinds of brochures and formal guidebooks on the screen there, but we're really excited to create a local resource that residents will be able to use if they want to learn how to identify a few species in their own neighborhood. So if you've got the chat function open, and if you have any suggestions for what species you think should be included, please put them into the chat. So they could be native plants or invasive plants. It'd be great to include a variety of things from wildflowers to shrubs to trees, and also some edible plants. And so we're looking for really common things that people would find, you know, in their backyards or in a local park or green space. And then we're going to build a list of these plants, and then we're going to be asking for anybody to submit artwork and things to be included in the guidebook. So you'll also receive more information about that after the workshop, but we're curious tonight if you have ideas for plants that you'd like to see included in that guide. And then finally, I would like to thank the Neighborhood Matching Fund at the Vancouver Board of Parks and Recreation, which is supporting this program. And there's my direct contact information if you would like to contact me after today. And with that, I am excited to introduce our guest for this evening. So Isabel Gasior started her career in the environmental field in 2013, but her passion for the outdoors, plants and wildlife and art started a long time before then. She holds a diploma in technology in fish, wildlife and recreation from BCIT and a Bachelor of Science in environmental science from Royal Roads University. She first started creating scientific drawings of plants in school when she was learning how to identify different species. And I was lucky enough that she worked for me off and on from 2015 until last year. And Isabel shares my love of plants. And so we kind of got to be plant nerds together. And I'm so thrilled that she's continuing to work with me in this capacity to help bring these kinds of workshops to people. So she was really good at integrating art into our outreach and education materials whenever possible. Currently, she's working as a research assistant with the city of Burnaby, but she also is a freelance artist on the side. And welcome, Isabel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for that grand welcoming. I'm just going to start right away by sharing my screen because we have less than an hour to go and I have a lot to go over today. I just want to make sure that that is seen. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us today for the third session, Botanical Illustration. And I'd like to start. So today, I'm going to just quickly start with territory acknowledgement. And I would like to acknowledge that I am on Coast Salish, Coquitlam, and Stalo territories here in Port Coquitlam. I also today will be talking about introduction to plant features. Specifically, we'll be focusing on Himalayan blackberry because that is what our drawing lesson will be on today. And I'll go over some similar species to Himalayan blackberry, and then I'll even go over a little bit drawing and painting tools. And then we'll continue on with the follow along session where I'll switch over to my camera here. So you'll be seeing my pencil and paper. And then at the end, I really want everybody to, if you are following along, to share your artwork. I think it'll be awesome if we can get like a screenshot with everybody's creations. So a little bit about me quickly. These are a few examples of some of my botanical illustrations or scientific illustrations. As you can see, they're not all plants. And I kind of just do this sometimes when I want to learn more about a plant or an animal. And then I find I retain the information better. So I kind of started doing it that way. And then it just became a hobby because I also think that they look very pretty. So it's kind of like a learning and creative hobby. Here are a few things I created while I was working with the Invasive Species Council of Metro Vancouver. So I'm actually wearing the shirt right now. I don't know if you can see it. And so these are the invasive plants that are found throughout Metro Vancouver commonly. So we decided to make a t-shirt to kind of work as a way of outreach. And I feel like they do work because people always ask about them. So, and then we also made a poster version of that. Okay, so starting off with plant features. Here you can see the leaf shapes. There are many leaf shapes. These are just kind of the main ones. And this is an important thing to learn when you are IDing plants and then also when you are learning to draw them, because you could be drawing an oblong leaf when they're really elliptic. And that will kind of like not make it as accurate as it actually is. So these are a few of the examples. And I find that also, okay, hold on, I need to switch. knowing the leaf margins takes it to the next step. So the margins are the edges of the leaf, and as you can see, these are all slightly different. And so this is a huge thing that you need to know when you are doing plant ID, because you could have a serrated leaf or you can have a dentate leaf, and they'll be completely different species. So when you're drawing it, just forward pointing teeth compared to symmetrical teeth actually makes a difference. So botanical illustration is pretty much all about the details. You kind of have to be a detail-oriented person. So I'm going to quickly go over Himalayan blackberry. So this is Himalayan. You've probably seen it everywhere. And this is actually commonly mistaken that people think that this is not the whole leaf. So this is actually the leaf. And people mistaken the leaflet for the leaf. So this is something you have to take into consideration, is the arrangement of leaves. And Himalayan blackberry has a palmate arrangement of leaves. So it kind of looks like a palm, an open hand, and each leaflet makes up the whole leaf. So this is also very important when you're drawing, because if you were just to draw the leaflet of a Himalayan blackberry, you're actually not drawing the entire leaf. And if you were to label that as Himalayan blackberry, people would be like, oh, that's not Himalayan blackberry. So this is kind of an important thing to note with that plant specifically. So always look at the entire plant and try to figure out what the arrangement is. So this is the Himalayan blackberry drawing that I did. And you can see the photos on the sides of it. So one is of the flower and the other is of, it was a nice clear photo of the entire leaf. So we're gonna attempt to draw both today if we have time, and paint. Here are some common species that are mistaken for Himalayan blackberry that are found throughout Metro Vancouver as well. And so the first one is Himalayan blackberry. The second one is evergreen blackberry, also known as cutleaf blackberry. And you can see the leaves are quite a bit more serrated. They almost go right down to the stem of the leaf. And then the last one, the third one, is actually a native blackberry species called trailing blackberry. And unlike evergreen and Himalayan blackberry, it's more of a ground covering species rather than like a shrubby kind of climbing species. So you'll find it more kind of like on the ground. And it also has 3 leaves. So it could actually sometimes be mistaken for salmonberry by some people. Okay, I'm gonna quickly go over the painting and drawing tools. So for watercolor paint, I'll go over this and then I'll switch over to my other camera. So for pencils, I pretty much just use a normal pencil. Just remember not to press down too hard when you're drawing, because you will probably be erasing a lot. And then when you do make those indentations in your paper, when you're painting and erasing all the time, it might look a little messy. So if you press lightly, you also won't see the pencil marks through the paint. Another tip is to avoid charcoal-based pencils with watercolor painting, because I find that if you use water, when you're mixing and adding water to it, it can kind of darken the color of the paint, so you don't really want that. And then for the paper, there are many different weights that you can buy of watercolor paper, and basically the higher the weight, the less likely the paper will kind of turn wavy. And then also when you're constantly adding water and pigment to the paper, the thinner the paper, the more likely you can create holes through the paper, or it almost like the paper starts like pilling. And then for the weights, you could use 90, like I've used 90-pound weights for more simpler art, but ones that I know that I'm going to be adding a lot of layers, I try to use 140-pound weight paper. And then also like the textures are slightly different. So I've also used like mixed media paper, which technically isn't watercolor, but you can watercolor, and you can find that. I think it's usually 90 pound, but not actually sure. And then the higher the paper quality, basically the better the pigments respond. So it depends on like what, if you're just practicing, I would probably say use a lower quality paper because you're probably going to be going through a lot of paper, and the higher quality stuff is pretty expensive. And then lastly, acid-free paper is ideal. If you're planning to keep your artwork for a while, you want to get acid-free paper because then it won't yellow or fall apart over time. And then, so watercolor paints, you can buy watercolor paints in either liquid, so it's in a tube, or palette form, which is the solid kind of pucks that we normally see. And then also for this, so basically the higher quality products have more vibrant and concentrated pigments. So if you're just starting out, honestly, like a palette is fine. I use palettes all the time. You can get some very high quality ones, and they're good. You can just put them in your backpack and you can go watercolor in the mountains, and it's super easy. It's not messy. Tubes require a bit more equipment. You need like a mixing palette, and I actually do like using liquid as well because I find the pigments are brighter. But it's like you'll find your own preference and just stick to it because it'll just be easier, or you can go between the two. And then lastly, brushes. So I started out just using whatever brushes, but I found over time that I know my certain type of brush that I like. And so I encourage you to try a bunch of different brushes because you may be surprised with what you like. I thought that I liked the very small, thin, fine brushes with like #1 size, which is basically the smallest. But I actually ended up finding that the #10 bigger brush that's pointed, I'll show it to you in a second, is my new preference because it holds more water. And then you can get a whole bunch of different shapes. So flat, angled, pointed, rounded, you name it. They also come from very many different materials, and then certain fibers like animal hair or synthetic can make specific brush shapes. So like, I think goat or something makes good flat angled brushes or something like that. And then synthetic brushes, you can get very good synthetic brushes these days that are made from nylon or polyester. And then you can also get combinations, so a combination of synthetic and animal hair. I use all my brushes are synthetic because they're animal friendly, but you can choose and try whatever you like. And they're also more affordable. Okay, let's get started because I see that we have like 40 minutes. So I'm gonna switch it. Or Tasha, can you switch me over to my other camera, please? And if anyone has any questions while I'm drawing, please just ask away in the chat box and Tasha will read them out for me. It's good to ask while we're going. Okay, so let me just show you my brushes quickly. So I actually, this one here was actually my favorite for a very long time. I still have the sticker on it. And this is a size 1 round brush. And then I decided to get a few of these brushes, which are bigger. And this is actually a size 10, and this one's a size 12 brush. And this one is my favorite. I feel like it holds enough water so that when I am painting, I'm not constantly having to add water and then pigment, water and pigment. So it like holds better. And then this one's pretty good too for if you're doing like a larger piece, but like considering that it's this big, it actually, you can get quite a bit of detail with that tiny pointed tip. You'll see in a bit. And then I usually keep these plastic things so that when you're traveling with your brushes, you don't want them to get squashed because they ruin the quality. So you just keep them, and then when you're done, you want to store them, you just bring it back up like this. So if you're buying it with one of these, keep it, don't throw it out. And then one more fun brush I just wanted to try. You actually fill this with water and it feeds through the tip, but I find that it wasn't like feeding through as consistently as I wanted. So I actually ended up just dipping it in water. Oops. Okay. And then this is the palette that I'm using today. Just a simple palette with a lot of really, really bright colors. So I'll show you a little bit of mixing as well while we're going. And usually when you buy a palette, it'll come with like a tube of white because white watercolor doesn't really work when you wanted to make a white color, but I use the white a lot, as you can see, to lighten colors. Okay, so starting off with the blackberry drawing is, so first I'm gonna create this like palm. So figure out your paper and like how much space you want to take up, because you kind of have to plan before you start. You don't want to start drawing the leaf and then end up one leaf being like off the paper, and then you have to erase the whole thing and move it because the scale will be off. And then I also want to add in some blackberries and some flowers too. So I'm gonna like plan. Okay, so I'm gonna start here. And then you always start with your middle one. I find that's the easiest. And then, so this is gonna act as the top leaf, and we're making 5. So then I'm gonna pick a center point. So let's do it here. And then I'm gonna go up, up, down, and down. And you can make it like as unsymmetrical as you want. I feel like if you do too symmetrical, it doesn't look realistic. Okay, so now that we have kind of the shape, I draw in the stem. So you just double it up. And then you kind of very, very slightly, just kind of a little bit go thicker the lower you go down. So that's the stem. Next, we're gonna do the top leaf. So blackberry, they don't all come from the center point of the leaves. They actually come a little bit above it. So none of them are gonna start right here. We're gonna like start them like here. So I'm gonna create the shape first, this one. And you could just do it very lightly because we're gonna add the serrated edges. So just like that. And then you wanna draw all the other ones and then just do it very lightly because we still have to add those edges, so remember that. And then you can make some go over top and some under. And so what I do is I make this one the biggest, these two the second biggest, and then the bottom two the smallest, just slightly. So I'll make that one go on top. And then I do a little tip at the top. And then this one I'm actually gonna put under, or kind of beside. Okay, and then the bottom ones. This one I'm gonna do under. So there's the leaf. And then now that you have that, you can create the stem. So what I would do is just kind of match the same thickness as this one. And then just stop at the base of the leaf. So the base of the leaf is the bottom. And then you can just slowly taper it into, so this line in the middle of the leaf, this is called the mid vein. Or sometimes I think it's called the mid rib. And this line that you come from the base of the stem, just like slowly taper it so that it kind of blends into the straight line. Okay, see, and then now I'm going to erase this because that, and then just make it a line. And then you can continue the line because you already have the shape of the leaf. Continue it kind of almost to the tip, but not quite. And then just follow the curvature or the shape of the leaf that you drew. Okay, and then the next step is I'm going to add more of the leaf veins. So the leaf veins on blackberry are slightly alternating. I'll show you what that means. So you just go up, and the next one isn't not directly across, but just slightly up. So just follow that up the leaf, almost kind of keeping the same idea of just almost going to the edge of the leaf, but not quite. So we're going to add it to all of them. And then if you want anywhere that you overlapped, you can actually erase the ones that you want. That's one for mine.
Isabel, we've just had a request from somebody. Is there any way that you can make what you're drawing look a little bit darker for us?
Okay, I'll do it for the purple. Yeah, I will. Okay, I'll do the edge first, and then I'll just draw darker.
Okay, I'm not sure if it would help if you turned your light up as well.
Yeah, let me try. Or if I put my camera lower.
Yeah, it's a bit easier to see now.
Is that better?
Yep. And then while we've taken a pause, another question, what size lead do you prefer for your pencil?
Oh, honestly, it doesn't matter. I think right now I'm using 0.5, but I'm totally okay with using 0.7. I literally use this pencil sometimes, so I'm not picky with my pencils. Okay, I'm gonna do the edges. So I'm gonna make them serrated. So I'm gonna make front facing teeth, meaning that all the teeth, they're not coming out, they're coming kind of upwards towards the point, and we're gonna make them uneven. So don't be perfect with it. We're just gonna kind of go like this. Some small. So just kind of like scribble in an edge, that's it. I find it's easier to start at the bottom because just like naturally the way that you do the serrations, it's just easier in this direction. So yeah, that's one leaf. And then you kind of just want to do that to all of them and then finish all your veins as well. So I'll do all the serrations on this side for now. That. Okay. And just, yeah, just be like organic with it. Don't be perfect. Nature is not perfect. Each leaf is different. It's kind of just like scribbling almost. I think that one looks a little bit different than the others, but that's okay. Okay, I hope everyone's still kind of like following along. I hope I'm not going too fast. Another thing I don't really have time today, but a lot of plants, sometimes the underside of the leaf looks slightly different. And so with botanical illustrations, there'll be like a photo beside showing the underneath. So for example, ferns, they have spores at the bottom, so like that look like circles. I have an example right here. So here you can see that I drew the spores because I wanted to show the underside of the leaf because the top side of the leaf looks like this. So this is licorice fern. So sometimes you'll have to add like a picture underneath, and then I also like to add like a picture from far away, and then like the young version. So there's like the fiddlehead. Okay, so I'm gonna add thorns now. And so with blackberry, the thorns are down facing. So they're like this. So we're gonna add some kind of coming out from the front, some from the back, some from the sides, and just kind of random. Like kind of alternating but random. And then the spikes, the thorns, I mean, they also occur on these parts here. So just remember to make them all facing down. Some of them even occur right up to the, when they're already, the leaf has started. So yeah, there's a blackberry leaf. And then I'm going to add a flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make a separate beside it to show kind of how it looks. So just going to make a stem. And just like that. And a few branches. So this is I'm gonna do a flower and some berries on here. So I'm gonna do, you can kind of tree it off or whatever, however to explain that. So I'll make this one a flower. And so I like to start with the center of the flower. I'll move this closer and try not to have my hand in the way. So just make the center of the flower, and then the petals are this, and then when you get to the front, you just kind of make them a little bit shorter, and that kind of gives it that look of depth, that they're either like flat or just the angle shows differently. And then in the middle, draw that. I don't know if you can see it very well. I'm zooming this in a bit closer. Okay, and then so I just add these, I forget what they're called, sepals or something. Add those at the bottom. And then I'll make this a flower. And kind of make like a few like wilted looking too. And then this one I'll make one that it's already gone to seed, meaning the flower is gone, but the berry is gonna start producing. And then here I'll make a berry. So with the berries, I make the sepal leaves, or I don't know if I'm calling that right. And then you just kind of do a bunch of circles like this, kind of like how you would do grapes maybe. And yeah, you just kind of build it like that. And so I'll do it here. And then I'll make one more flower.
Hey, Isabel, we have a request to pause so people can catch up.
Yeah. You don't have to add as many as I did. I just wanted to keep kind of showing you different ways that you can draw it, but I will slow down. I'll do, what I was gonna do next is make a kind of a big version of each. So I'll move that. And then you can kind of see a better detail. So I'm gonna draw the berry, like a close-up version here. And then you can kind of see better. So you kind of want to be uneven. Don't make them like perfect rows because then it doesn't really look real. You can do like full circles. You can do like a few half circles.
I'll just mention too, it's a great time to get inspiration from nature because Himalayan blackberry is flowering across the region right now. So it'd be probably fairly easy for you to find this plant. You could pick a piece and bring it back, or you could actually create your artwork right in nature. We probably wouldn't see any berries yet, but over the next couple of months, those will form. But it's a great time to see the flowers in person right now.
So I'm drawing the flower here. And I just need to mention that there's 5 petals on a Himalayan blackberry flower. So I told you this was going to go by fast. It's 6:40. We got 20. We still have to paint. But I'll let everyone catch up with their drawing because I think I'm now at the point where we can kind of stop and wait for people to catch up, and then we'll start painting. I'm just going to finish this one off while everyone catches up. So I'm just kind of extending the stem, and I'm going to add thorns. And then if you find it's like kind of looking sparse, you can add more berries and flowers. I have to hold my pencil in a very awkward way because if I hold it like this, then you won't see what I'm drawing. So it's a little wonky. And then another step to Botanical Illustration is labeling. And so I find my information about these plants on the internet. So you can go on eFlora is a good one. And you can look at the scale of things. So for example, like with this berry, I'd usually use a ruler, but I'll use my freehand here. I don't know, I would say like 3 to 4 centimeters, but I would research this. I don't have this information right now. And then the leaves, I guess like the entire leaf could be maybe, what would you say, Tasha? Like maybe 20 centimeters?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Like a range of like 15 to 25 centimeters or something. Maybe not quite 25. But yeah, this is very important with botanical illustrations, is actually research it and get the information, the right information. I'm just doing it for the purposes here. I should have gotten that before I did this. And then you can label them. So this one's the fruit. And this one's the flower. And this is the leaf. You can label the thorns. And fun fact that Himalayan blackberry actually has a toxin in its thorns. And so when you do get poked by it, it could actually, that's why it hurts a bit more than you think it would. Okay, and then obviously the title. Usually I spend like hours making one of these, so this is a quick version, just so we could fit it in. And then we can type in, I usually handwrite the Latin name. So it's rubus or man. Let's forget how to spell it. I think. Is that right, Tasha?
Yeah, Rubus armeniacus.
Is that wrong?
No, that's right.
Oh, okay. So I was like, something seems off. Okay. How is everybody doing? Can I get some thumbs up or some thumbs down to give you more time? Got a thumbs up? Any thumbs downs? Awesome. I'm really excited to see everybody's.
Lots of thumbs up, no thumbs down. So I think we're good to proceed.
All right, let's get some painting done in this last little 15-minute.
Yeah, and just remember, this is going to be recorded. So of course you can work on your artwork after the workshop ends, but you'll have access to the recording afterwards where you can actually pause it or fast forward to the parts you want to see again. And so that's often a nice way to recreate this at your own pace, is to view it afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have my water and all my colors. So what I usually start with is I wet my brush, and then just with a wet brush, just like add a little bit of water in the inside of the leaf. This will help with the color distribution. So I'm going to do all the leaves first. And just roughly, like don't worry about getting each of the serrated tips. Just try not to go outside of the line because wherever you put the water, that's where the color is going to go. Okay. And then, so the greens that I have are quite bright, so I usually mix them. So I'll mix a little bit of that, get some more water, and then I head over to my white, get some white, kind of just play around until you get the color. So I feel like I'm pretty happy with this color. And then you kind of like just test it quickly because you see how dark that is. You don't like, that's not good. You don't want it to be that dark because that almost looks like acrylic paint. So what you can do is just take your paintbrush and dip it in some water. And then that will release some of the pigment, and then you can like kind of touch on the side of the glass. And then there we go. And then just to kind of add it to each of them and then quickly spread it. And you can add more water if you need. And this is just the front, this is the first layer, so you don't need to be perfect. Just kind of get the color on there so that you can work on the details. There's a lot of layers with watercolor. And then you can steal the pigment from a different one. So like see how this one's a little bit less green and this one's very green? So I can like add water to this and like steal a little bit of the pigment to add to here instead of like going back to the palette. And just know that anytime that you have like a water droplet like this, for example, I mean, I can't really see that. Yeah, so anytime you have like a water droplet like this, it'll leave kind of like a color pigmentation there. Like it'll look like that typical like watercolor look. There you go. So now that I kind of distributed it, I'm gonna kind of go and get these edges. I don't want the paint to dry. So just kind of work, see how fine I can get the detail with this big brush? That's why I love it. And you just get each of those, and it's okay if it goes a little out. Normally you wouldn't have as dark pencil lines as me, so you can kind of manipulate the drawing a bit as you're going. So I'm just gonna extending the pigment into the serrated edges. So this whole time I haven't gotten new color yet. I'm kind of just using what I have on the paper. You can just keep adding water to kind of spread the color. And this is why it's good to have that heavyweight watercolor paper, because you can keep adding the water and your paper's not gonna curl, or it's not gonna like start shredding or pilling. I'm just softening that hard line. Okay, I feel like my edges are good. And feel free to keep working on your edges. I'm just gonna start the stem. We have like about 10 minutes left, and I really want everyone to show me their artwork before we all leave. So I'll try to get us done in the next 10 minutes. Okay, so the stem of blackberry is like kind of a little bit slightly red. I would say like purpley, maybe it's more purpley. So the colors that I'm gonna use is I really like this one. And then I'm gonna mix it with this like green. And then I'm gonna head over to the brown. Add it, I need some more water. And the green kind of makes it a bit more kind of an earthy tone, I guess. And so I'm just kind of adding more of that green in the brown. And more water. Yeah, so you kind of mix into the colors, and you can always like clean the colors off after. So now that I have the color that I want, I know that this is going to be too strong. So I can either put it right in the water, or I can just go on my paper towel and just press down a couple times and then add to the water. So I'm just going to add it to the water against the glass again until it kind of waters down. And then because you're doing such a thin line, you don't want a lot of water, because as soon as you get a big blob, it's just gonna all bleed. You also don't want your color to touch the green, because the green is still drying. You don't want to get the paint on there, else it's gonna like smudge into that. So I'm just gonna start with the stem here. And then the thorns, kind of similar color. maybe a little bit more green. So we can add just a bit of green on the brush. For the sake of time, I'm just kind of doing them very rushed. Okay, and then I feel like our green is kind of dry now. I can touch it and the color doesn't come off, so that's good. So I'm just going to show you kind of how to add a layer onto the leaf. So whatever green you used, you just kind of want to make it a tiny bit darker. So I used kind of a mix of it, like these greens. And I'm going to add a little bit of brown. I always find you have to add brown. My palette's really bright, so I feel like I have to add brown to a lot of my colors. So kind of have like a good color here now. And I'm just going to do that to kind of get a little bit of the color off. Add some water to the brush. And then after I add the water to the brush, I just kind of like test it. So that's good. And then you're gonna go over the lines that you drew here. You're gonna go like that. And then we're gonna do, kind of focus on one side. I'm gonna close it off like that. And then on this side, you just do it kind of just a little bit but less. And this kind of gives it the depth. And we're gonna do that. So whatever side, we're doing this lower half. So we're gonna try to keep it the same so that the light looks like it's the same on each of these leaves. So the lower half of the leaf is gonna have more of the color, and the top just a little bit. And then same with this one. And then we're gonna steal some from here too, because well, okay. And then on this one, you kind of have to do both sides because the angle shows that this is the bottom of the leaf. And then if you need more pigment and you find you can't get enough from the paper, go back to your tissue, get some water, and just do this. And you'll pick it up. But I have to do it against the table so you can't see. So I need some. I'm just kind of picking it up. Or you can just go to the palette and you should still have like the color kind of is wet. So you can just go to the palette and just like pick some up of the mixed color. Okay. And then the last, this one I feel like you can just add to them if you don't feel like it's dark enough. Okay, and so that's that. And literally you could just keep adding layers for more detail. You can also add some extra veins a little bit. So that's just kind of like, no, that's too much water. So you just kind of, you pretty much have to wait for the like water to dry to add another layer, or else you're just kind of like adding pigment to the water that's already there. And so if you want to like add a whole new layer that will actually be like distinctive, you need to wait for the water to dry a bit. Okay, once you're happy with that, I'm just gonna let it dry a bit. I'm gonna do the flower and the berry. So we're gonna use brown, a brownish green for the stem. Kind of more green, but this one I forgot to put thorns on. And then this is all like dead leaf, so we can make it kind of the same color. And then add it here. Oops. And then I'm gonna make color the blackberry. And the blackberry is actually like a really dark black bluish purple. So grab your like blacks, your blues, and your reds and mix them together. That's what I'm doing. And so this is the color that I have. Add some more water. And then I'm just gonna cover the whole thing, kind of like what I did with the leaf. And then when it dries, you just kind of add in the details. So adding the details to the berries would be just kind of like making a few darker, a few lighter. And then what you can do now that this is covered in water and it has the pigment, if you just take the tip of your brush and just kind of do like dots like that, it kind of like adds more depth to each of the little pieces on the berry. And it's okay if it kind of bleeds together like that. It has more of an effect. So that is the berry. And then the flowers are kind of like a whitish pink. And then after I finish this flower, I guess we'll have to kind of finish, like stop because it's almost 7, or it's like 1 minute to 7. And I hope I covered all the main basics so you guys could finish these. So I'm just making a pink right here, a very, very light pink. Almost a white. I would make it almost more white than you want it because you can add more pink layers on top for details. So what I would do like that. And then the middle is kind of like almost like a greeny yellow. You can make a greeny yellow color. And then just kind of like tone it down so it's not so bright. It's pretty bright, but I'll add that. And I'm just waiting it for it to dry because I want to do the layers. Normally, like you wouldn't see all these pencil lines. This is just so you guys could see me draw, but normally you wouldn't see all the pencil lines. So that when you add the detail, it looks nice. This looks a little bit messy, but it's okay. While that's drying, I'm just gonna put some thorns in here. I didn't draw them on. And that's another thing with watercolors, like you don't have to draw all the features on. You can just kind of draw the main bits, like the shape that you want it, and then you can create edges and everything just with the colors. You don't even need to draw them. I just wanted to show you guys like how it's almost easier if you don't draw them, because then you can kind of play around with it more and you don't have to worry about pencil marks. And then, yeah, so now because I did these pink, so what I'm going to do quickly is just kind of dry it, just so I can show you guys how to add a layer on here. So I would grab the pink again, slightly more pink than white this time, just a little bit. Okay, and then see how I made these like lines? So you just kind of like follow that. Kind of just closer to the base of the petal rather than the outside. You want to keep the outside more white. And yeah, that is a very quick tutorial of Himalayan blackberry plant. I don't know how everyone's doing with their drawings, but I would love to see if anyone can share.
I had a real problem with scale.
With scale, yeah, that's a common. Oh, but you did a great job.
Okay, no, I don't know where it is.
I can see the flower right now.
Yeah, tiny, tiny, tiny. And here's my.
I think you did a great job. Like, that is so good.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
There are some major problems with the scale.
Yeah, it's definitely like a learning.
What?
It's a learning curve for sure.
Yep, but I'm happy.
I think that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
I didn't have watercolor, I used pencil crayons.
Oh, it's so pretty. Good job. Looks very neat.
Everybody did so well. I would accept all of your artwork into the guidebook because they're all very true likenesses of the real plant, which is what we need for a guidebook. So good job, everybody.
I love it.
You take us up on submitting the artwork. I'd love to see your art and your names in the guidebook.
Yeah, it looks great.
Have any questions for Isabel before we adjourn for the night?
I have one. I think I used totally the wrong kind of pencil. It wasn't charcoal, so I just grabbed a pencil crayon, and then when I watercolored over, which was my very first time ever using watercolor, all my lines disappeared. So I think I may have missed what kind of pencil to use. Was it an HB or 2B or something like that?
I just use a normal pencil. I don't even know like if it's HB. I just buy like red. I use that.
Oh, like a lead pencil? Oh, okay. Okay.
But then I sometimes even use like this yellow pencil that I'm showing you in my.
I can't see it. Oh, okay. Yeah, got it. Got it now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So all my definition disappeared around the edge of the leaf. So, is it best to go back in with another tool, like a fine Sharpie or something? Or?
Yeah. Sometimes, what I do, like in my illustrations, I actually like going over it with Sharpie, as you can see here.
Okay.
Just because it kind of creates a crisp line, but also I do sometimes watercolor and I don't do the edges. Okay. So it all depends. And sometimes actually people prefer that kind of pencil where it does disappear because they don't want to show their lines at all. They just want it to be watercolor. So it all depends on like what kind of style you want to pick up.
Okay, well, I really appreciate that. It was great. And I had all the wrong color greens in the little palette I picked up today. They're all either too bright or too dark, but I'm learning. So that's
just fine. My go-to is I mix brown and white with everything.
Ah, cool. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I'm pleased. Yeah.
Hey, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So thank you so much, Isabel, for teaching us how to draw tonight. And hopefully you can use what you learned to document other plants that you see outdoors.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I know it was really rushed, but I'm sure you picked up some good skills and just practice, practice, practice.
So watch for the recording coming to your inbox soon. And take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.